Now to a Wink News exclusive: heroin in Southwest Florida. The numbers of those using are staggering. And the lives lost to this dangerous, deadly drug are increasing day by day. Over the next 2 nights, Wink News reporter Michelle Kingston will introduce us to people affected by opioids plaguing our state and what is being done to stop it. Tonight, she shows us the faces of addiction.
Relapsed on heroin and crack all in one day.
If you think heroin is only a big city problem and nowhere near Fort Myers, Florida, you're wrong.
I've seen lots of drugs being sold right here.
Young men and women doing whatever it takes to get their fix right here in our own backyard.
Basically, you have to medicate yourself to do some of the things that you do because you really don't want to do it.
The average person shooting heroin has changed. White men are now the majority of users.
They're prescribed prescription medicines for pain management to treat a legitimate problem that they had. That treatment accidentally became an addiction. Now their source to feed that addiction has been taken away, and they're having to seek that from other sources. They're turning to the heroin dealer.
The dealer on the street selling the deadly drug for less than $20 a bag.
Heroin users range from CEOs to companies to the unemployed kid looking for work right out of college.
Dr. Short has seen a 150% increase in patients addicted to drugs in the past year. He says users are getting younger and younger, but there's no age to addiction. In Lee County last year alone, someone under the age of 18 died from heroin, but people over the age of 50 overdosed as well.
You know, I've seen a lot of people OD, die, go to jail, lose their families, their houses, cars, jobs.
This former dealer and addict describes the high he felt when turning to heroin after pills and alcohol just weren't strong enough.
I'm perfect, I guess. Invincible. Like nothing bothers you.
She was real good in school, almost straight A's. She won beauty pageants when she was in high school.
This mom watched her daughter turn to drugs in college.
And when I saw her, I couldn't believe it. She was down to nothing. Her weight had just dropped, just plummeted. When I hugged her, it just felt like I was hugging a skeleton.
Heroin use has more than doubled in the past decade among young adults across the country. Deaths caused by the drug in our state alone have increased nearly 80% over the past year. Southwest Florida specifically lost more than 55 people to the drug in 2015. Lee County, one of the hardest hit last year.
I have broken marriages, busted jobs, the whole gamut of how far down in the hole can you go. And I've been there.
James Byram didn't come from a broken home. He's not a high school dropout. He's not from the inner city.
I had the best of clothing, the best of schooling.
Byram's addiction started with marijuana and spiraled.
You can take a slice right out of the middle of America and the story will be the same. It got to a point where choices had to be made, and I made the wrong choice.
He's lost a daughter to the same addiction he fights every day, and now works hard to make sure he doesn't lose another child who was also struggling to stay sober. Her addiction began when she turned to heroin after her pain pill prescription ran out.
It took away my pain instantly, and I felt like I was a normal person with no injuries. And I felt like I could go out and run 6 miles like I used to when I was in the military.
Together, they sit through meetings.
So in order to not come back to where we were, we have to change the way we think.
Together, these recovering addicts fight to stay alive.
It's a battle. It's like you're going into war and you're leaving everything behind.
With overdoses now causing more deaths than car crashes, some say we're facing the worst drug epidemic in United States history.
Drugs can be found anywhere. It doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter what state, what county. Drugs are definitely a big issue no matter where you go.
Right now, Wink News continues our exclusive heroin series. Tonight, reporter Michelle Kingston explains who this deadly drug hurts the most and what some local law enforcement agencies are doing to keep families here safe.
These photos have been shared more than 30,000 times. 2 people nearly passed out, high on heroin, at a traffic stop in Ohio. Heads bobbing, eyes shut. A 4-year-old boy sits in the back seat.
That really took the internet by storm. It's a very visceral depiction of the reality of heroin addiction.
Just last month, similar scenes in Cape Coral. On 2 different nights, 2 different men found slumped over behind the wheel on heroin.
It's not coming, it has arrived.
These are the faces of addiction.
One thing that addicts always say, especially when they haven't reached their bottom, is, oh, well, that won't be me. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm never going to be that bad. And, never say never. I'll never do this. That'll never happen to me. Never, never, never. I've pretty much run out of the nevers.
These are the faces of who heroin hurts the most. Families and children, like the young boy in the back seat, and moms like Susan McNichol.
Somebody told me once that if she didn't quit using by the time she was 40, she would probably kill herself.
A mom who says she'll never forget the years her daughter was high on drugs.
You go through every emotion under the sun. You hate them one day, but you always love them because they're your kids.
The Florida Department of Law Enforcement calls heroin one of the deadliest drugs of 2015.
Unfortunately, we continue to see increased heroin abuse in the community.
The number of overdoses seen at Lee Health prove how many families have been torn apart because of its potency right here in Southwest Florida.
It seems that the heroin is getting more and more dangerous. Oftentimes it's life-threatening or can kill someone.
And in Charlotte County,
we see day in and day out how drugs hurt people, families, communities.
The sheriff's office has stopped punishing many heroin users and now brings any addict who is ready for recovery to a place where they can receive treatment.
If you walk up to one of our deputies, if you call us to your location, or you walk into our office, you're going to get that help.
Help so desperately needed.
I love you enough to let you hate me long enough until you realize I'm trying to save your life.
James Byram, a recovering addict himself, hosts meetings at a halfway house.
And I got a lot of people that really don't like me, but they're sober today, and they've come back and said, thanks for doing what you did.
As if I didn't turn around now, I was going to die. I had to lose almost everything just to realize that I still have a chance to come back and try to regain it all.
Lee County ranks 4th in the state in the frequency of heroin showing up in the system of people who passed away last year. One local mom wants to make sure she doesn't become part of that statistic.
I would wake up, and if I did not have a shot ready within 5 minutes, I was throwing up.
She's in recovery now after leaving the military, getting hooked on heroin, and losing custody of her children.
It does not matter where I go, where my children go, as long as I know that they're in my heart, they're with me.
We checked in with the Lee County Sheriff's Office and the Fort Myers Police Department a number of times while researching for this series. They told me they will not comment. Later tonight, we'll show you just how easy it is to find this deadly drug on our streets. The final story in our exclusive heroin series airs tonight on Wink News at 11. In the studio, Michelle Kingston, Wink News now.
Wink News also contacted the lawyers for the 2 men Cape Coral police say were found unresponsive in their cars last month. You saw them at the beginning of the story. One attorney didn't return our call, the other had no comment. Only Wink News taking you onto the streets of Lee County to show you just how close this dangerous drug of heroin really is. Tonight Beats Michelle Kingston picking up our Wink News exclusive series from US 41.
This is how easy it is for someone to get drugs down here.
It's Friday night in Fort Myers.
Lots of dope in here. Lots of dope in here.
We're riding along US 41 with a drug addict in recovery.
He is on heroin and crack out of there.
He's asked us to hide his face and change his voice. We're calling him Michael for his safety.
The guy that manages this motel, he does heroin.
He points out motels and inns, convenience stores and gas stations where he says he knows drugs are being sold, because these are the spots where he says he'd buy heroin right here in Fort Myers.
You know, a lot of us out here are broken, and that's why they're out here.
With drugs comes prostitution, and girls and pimps are seen walking down these streets every night of the week.
Hey, baby.
We see firsthand how easy it is to buy drugs in women.
What's going on, baby? How you doing?
The woman walks over to her car and tells Michael she's ready to party.
how much.
When Michael was using, he made ads on Backpage for Money, a popular site for girls selling themselves for sex.
I stayed in the hotel every night.
So you would make enough money to pay for a room?
We'd make enough money to buy our drugs and buy a room.
But motel owners in the hottest drug spots in town deny any problems in their rooms.
You don't see prostitutes coming into these rooms?
The Fort Myers Inn refused to comment for our story, but according to the Lee County Sheriff's Office, deputies have responded to the motel more than 400 times in the past year for all types of calls, including drugs.
If we can save 1, 2, or 3 people out of 10, it makes my hours in the day worth it.
Doctors like Brandon Short are aware of the drug use in the county. He works with recovering addicts.
We see about a 30% recovery rate, but 30% is better than 0%.
He tries every day to keep people off the streets, away from heroin. But the toughest part of his job is knowing he can't save them all.
If they're not ready, you can't talk them into being ready. It has to be what they want.
You gotta man up. No one's gonna take control of your life but you. No one's gonna make that step but you. So you gotta just make it. You gotta do it.
Michelle Kingston, Wink News Now.
We've posted all 3 stories in our Heroin series on the Wink News Facebook page and on winknews.com.